It's unbelievable. The two guys putting the wheel on, they were new. Fourth and fifth, but Gene, you finished fourth and fifth here. You fucking look like rock stars.
Here are the lights. And the lights are blank. The cars are moving. We are a go in Monaco.
Lift me up, lift me up, higher now.
The right hand is one round.
Lift me up, higher now. Lift me up.
Brilliant move. That's the best move we've seen all season. We have rain, Josh.
Griffin here, go through the inside, also in the Red Bull of pace level. Becomes a champion of the world.
Oh my God!
So, hello everybody, and welcome to the first ever stream on the VRS channel. Now, as you may guess, this is not going to be a race just yet, but it is just as important as a race. This is going to be the order of the picks that the team principals will get, and also what team principals we have chosen as the VRS council. So, my name is Josh6000, and here alongside me today, and for the rest of the season, is Cav. Cav, how are we today?
Great, Josh. We finally got here. Technical issues aside, we are running a little bit behind, but better late than never. And yeah, looking forward to this. Obviously, we'll start to get a bit of shape around what we're doing, what's going to happen, and most importantly, who's going to be involved. So we had a lot of applications, as you well know yourself, for the TP roles, and we'll finally find out who the first 10 TPs for season 1 are going to be.
Yeah, so there was a lot of consideration. We had a look at all the applications, and we took out the ones that were most impressive to us. Of course,
We didn't read any of them. We just picked who we liked. But sure, look,
it's a random spin on the wheel. As we'll see later on. But yeah, we've had a look through the applications. We've seen which ones, the people we know, the people we don't know. We've had a look through all the applications, and whatever one stood out to us the most, we have picked. So we have the 10 here, and we're going to go through them now. So let's get to the first team principal in no particular order. Let's go to it now. Oh, no, we're not going to go to the team principal. So we're actually going to go through a little bit about the league. So apologies about that. We're getting a bit of ahead of ourselves here. But Gav, why don't you go through a little bit on how the draft works and what the league is all about?
yeah, I suppose just to do a very quick whistle stop because I know we're already behind. We're going to see obviously 20 picks for the drivers over the next couple of weeks. Hopefully we'll get that all sorted within a week or two, where we have the grid full as well as the TPs, which we'll obviously be filling tonight. But yeah, straightforward enough. We're going to have 12 weeks of racing, most excitingly, and we're going to have 10 weeks of the usual one short quali and one 50% race. So, nothing new or out of the ordinary there. But what we are going to have, which is going to be quite interesting, is 2 weeks of sprint racing. So on those nights, we will have 2 back-to-back sprint races, and most, I suppose, crucially, or the biggest risk to that is we'll have 2 one-shot qualies to go with them. So they're going to be obviously very cutthroat, invalidate your lap, and you're starting at the back, and they should hopefully shake up the order a little bit and make things a little bit different.
Yeah, indeed, that will be very interesting to see come the first race. And now getting on to the team principals. Team principals we haven't seen in a few leagues we've been in. This is new to us, and it's something we're looking forward to. So why don't you go through a little bit about the team principals?
Yeah, so suppose once we find out who the 10 lads are, their job's obviously going to be to run the team and make some very important decisions throughout the season. We're going to see, first and foremost, they decide on who their drivers are. And what we'll decide tonight is the order for the first ever draft. So to keep it short and sweet, I suppose anyone that's ever done a fancy football draft, etc., will be very familiar. There'll be in a running order for the picks. Because this is our first ever season, we are going to essentially bookend the picks. So if you get the first driver pick, you will get the last driver pick then for your second seat, so on and so forth, second and 19th, and you have it that way. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who pairs up with who. Will they go for consistency? Will they go for outright speed? And, what they'll do in terms of actually evaluating drivers. The lads are obviously free to organise their own practice sessions, their own practice races. And as a driver, I suppose, you're really looking to put yourself in the shop window with a TP to get yourself a drive. We have silly season whacked in the middle of that, which will be where driver contracts end, and ultimately it's a case of, does your TP want to keep you on or does the TP want to get you out? So There's a lot to be considered. There's a lot for the TPs to do. Obviously, it's a support role. We hope they'll look after their drivers during the season with maybe some setups, some strategy calls, some information throughout the races, etc. But yeah, there's going to be a lot going on. There's going to be a lot to manage, and yeah, compared to I think a lot of leagues, you're going to see the TP is much more active. They obviously have their own championship as well, which is the most important to them, and their championship will be calculated by taking the constructors' points minus penalty points. So your TP is going to be looking for you to be driving as clean as possible, and that's the most important championship to the TP because ultimately that decides on next season's draft, next season's picks, and who stays in their roles as well. So the bottom three TPs on the leaderboard at the end will obviously get the bullet. But all that will sort of work its way out organically over the next few weeks as people get to grip with what's going on. Most importantly, I think, is we find out who the 10 souls are who have to get their head around all this.
Exactly. So we are going to shortly get on to the team principals that we have chosen, and then the order. So, of course, as you said, the first pick will get the first team principal picked out will get the first pick and the last pick. So, this first season, technically, you're not gonna. If you're getting the first pick, you have the first driver, but you also have the last driver. So, technically, the person who's picked last on this wheel, and they'll have just as good a chance as the top guy because they can have two very consistent drivers in 10 and 11. Not necessarily two slow drivers, but two in the middle who'll be racking in the points as much as anybody else. So be interesting to see as we progress through the season. So now, of course, without further ado, we're going to get into the team principles that we have chosen. So I'll get very quickly on into this. So the unveiling of the team principles, the long-awaited unveiling of this. So I think we get straight into it, and we see who's first now in no particular order. This is the first team principal. So we have decided to go with Farrell. So we know Farrell, of course, from LOI, don't we, Cav?
We do. He's a pain in the hole.
Yeah, exactly. But we think he has a steady head on him. He knows what he's doing, and we think he can really not only push his team forward, but also give us that entertainment factor as well. Because we know he has a bit of beef with a certain character or two who's up in this unveiling soon. So what do you think about Farrell, Cav? What are your thoughts on this one?
I think with likes of Farrell, and obviously as we go through the order, we'll see this quite a bit. We've quite mixed ability in terms of, standard of driver, and obviously being a driver is one thing and having knowledge about the game, but how you, I suppose, act as a TP is going to be slightly different. So it'll be interesting to see likes of Farrell, who would have come from LOI Tier 1, a few seasons ago when he was LOI Time Splitter. How he adapts to the role compared to maybe someone who hasn't driven at as high a level in the likes of LOI, but maybe, might be more suited, might be less suited to the role. It's going to be interesting to see. People have this perception that the fastest drivers are going to make the best TPs, but it may not play out like that, and that's going to be interesting to see. So yeah, Farrell, we'll be watching, that's for sure, and he's number 1 of 10. So yeah, who's number 2, Josh?
And, let's get on to number 2 here. So number 2, we have Daniel Mullen. So a good personality within LOI. He's always around there. He likes to send the odd insult onto me, and here we go, giving him a bit of payback by giving him this role. So we'll see how he gets on. What do you think, Kev?
Well, if there's one and one only reason Daniel had to be part of this was that the abuse he gives you on a weekly basis is never undervalued. But again, Daniel will be one that'll tell you himself. He obviously drives at a lower standard compared to maybe like to say Farrell, who we've had already. But it'll be interesting to see how that converts onto the TP role, what his style is, and what sort of support he can offer. Obviously, the drivers that he picks as well. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Daniel gets on, and it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
It will indeed. Now on to number 3. Out of 10, we have someone we haven't heard of before. We have Francesco. So not a lot we know about this guy. He not from League of Ireland, not from any leagues we know. So be interesting. We had a look through his application. We are impressed by it, and I think it's interesting to have someone unknown come in and take this team principal role. What do you think, Cav?
Yeah, that's part of it. I think if we were to quote part of his application, he said, "I am him." So, reminds me of when Jose Mourinho burst onto the scene and thought he was the special one. Will Francesco be him? Who fucking knows? But, whether he finishes first or if he gets the second tent, I think we'll all be watching him because he's built himself up now to be the dog's Balix. So it'll be interesting to see how he gets on. And as you said, he probably has a slightly harder job coming in because he won't know, I would imagine, a lot of the drivers
Yeah.
as well as maybe some of the community would. So it'll be interesting to see how he manages that. But yeah, everyone has an equal chance, and it'll be interesting to see how he gets on.
Indeed, so we will find out if Francesco is him. But let's get on to the next team principal. So we have Shamrock. So another personality in LOI. We know a lot about Shamrock, and we think he can.
Too much.
Yeah, maybe a little bit too much, but a lot nonetheless. And we think he can bring a lot to the role. Again, personality is a big thing in this role. You have to have some sort of entertainment to be successful as a team principal in here, anyway. But what do you think, Cav, about Shamrock being team principal?
Yeah, look, Shamrock obviously has, we won't say a controversial history in the leagues he's been in, but he's certainly someone that you notice his presence up and down the Discord, and he'll be loud in the role, that's for sure. Obviously runs his own league in the URC as well, and so would probably fancy himself as, having that management experience in some shape or form. So it'll be interesting to see how he does. He obviously has beef with pretty much everyone. I've even had my own run-ins with him at times over the season. So it'll be interesting to see how well he keeps his drivers on side. And if there's one TP so far, I'd say where everything might just implode and nobody's talking to each other, it could well be Team Shamrock, but we'll have to see.
Indeed. Now, getting on to the next one, it only gets better from here. We have Ryan Curran, Mr. 105 AI himself, is going to be a team principal in VRS. So it's an interesting one. Ryan Curran, he definitely has the speed, and he's going to be able to help his drivers. Of course, he doesn't have that consistency in the races, unfortunately, but that's not what this is about. I think Ryan Curran could be a great manager. He thinks he is anyway in his application. So, what do you think yourself, Kev, about Ryan Curran being a TP?
Yeah, well, we know from watching Ryan quite closely in Tier 3 back in LOI that he certainly has good pace. He likes to spin. Thankfully, when he's not in the car, he won't be able to do that. But it'll be interesting to see if his drivers maybe learn that from him. But he can't race Sundays, he's told us, so he wants to be a TP, which is, great news. But how much support then will his two drivers get from him on a Sunday night? That'll be interesting to monitor. And that's exactly what we wanted, was different levels of, I suppose, potential support, potential input, and potential points of view. So yeah, Ryan's an interesting one. As you said, done a good application, wants to have a good relationship between his two drivers. And yeah, look, let's see how he gets on.
Indeed, yeah. So now, before we go on, a few lads. Now, we've had a good few applications, and not everybody who has applied is going to be a TP. Just thought we'd have it out there. Now, you can apply as a driver 100%, but there's only 10 spots for a TP, and it is everybody seems to take an interest in it. So let's get on to the next few. Hopefully we don't have too many disappointed people, but here we go. On to the next one. We have Lucky Nutshot. So in League of Ireland, don't know a whole lot about Lucky Nutshot actually, do we, Kev?
No, Lucky's been tipping away there. Him and his brother Nutshots, one of the many Nutshots that seems to have popped up over the last year or so. But if his name by itself wasn't enough to get him in, I suppose his application was exceptional. Definitely the best grammar and the best spelt application. And I mean, that's something that absolutely appeals to me. But yeah, look, he spoke at length about, loving the F1 manager game and, having that experience of maybe, taking on a team, working well with the drivers, having that competitive edge. So it'll be interesting to see. And again, Lucky, it will be one that doesn't drive as high a level, I suppose, as some of the others. So again, it'd be interesting to see how he takes to the role, how he manages his two drivers, and what sort of strategy he has within his team.
Indeed. It'd be a very interesting little career for Lucky Nutshot. Now, let's get on to the next team principal. There we go. You see it on screen. The man himself.
Who the fuck picked this?
To bring the entertainment, we have Rando himself. Now, Rando, we know, again, way too much about Rando. Way too much about Rando. And we couldn't resist having Rondo as a team principal. So here he is. Whoever wants to drive for Rondo, have at it. I'm sure he'll have tons of DMs going towards him. But no, Rondo he's a great personality within the league. He's out there. Everybody knows Rondo, and yeah, he's going to be great, I think. And what do you think, Kev? Maybe the opposite.
Yeah, look, Rando is in that same category as Shamrock. You know, love him or hate him, he's fucking everywhere, and he is loud and proud in many ways. We won't go into that though. But yeah, look, Rando obviously is well known in, again, the likes of LOI. Good driver, good in his day, and I'm sure whichever drivers he has working with him, he'll organise them well. And yeah, again, it's a bit of an unknown how a lot of the lads will take to the role, but certainly, I suppose you would think he would have a good bit to offer. And it's going to come down to, again, what drivers he gets in the draft, who he can manage to have around. And, you know, hopefully for him, he gets a high place in the draft that he can get a decent first pick.
Yeah. Right. Now, on to the next one. We have Ryan Dav himself. So, Ryan Dav was an LOI. He was in a tier 1 for a bit. He has been away from league racing now. I think he said something about his setup. He's not able to have it in his where he's staying. That's okay. Team principal is a perfect role for him. Not a whole lot we know about Ryan Dav, is there, Kev?
No, obviously Ryan drove again at a decent level in LOI, good driver, and should have a good bit of input. And I suppose when we were coming up with this concept, people like Ryan who maybe can't race for one reason or another, you know, whether it's time constraints, whether it's setup constraints, whether it's, you know, work or other commitments, this is what we wanted to offer, was a different way of being involved and feeling like you're part of the community. You know, a lot of people tune in to the different leagues every week just to watch, and that's fine, but it's obviously better if you still have some involvement directly on, you know, the outcomes. So there's an opportunity for Ryan to have that. It'll be interesting to see how he gets on, and again, what sort of drivers the lads pick. You know, will Ryan go for people that are very known to him in LOI? Will he go for drivers who maybe are unknown from elsewhere that look to have good TT times or good practice races? That'll all obviously reveal itself in the next few weeks, but yeah, I'd say Ryan will be right up there, no doubt.
Now, on to the next one. We have Gaffo. Gaffo, who is in the chat at the moment and very active in almost every chat I know.
He's too fucking active.
Yeah, of course we know him from mainly from League of Ireland Tier 3 in the championship with Bluefoot, who will be racing for us this coming season. But Gaffo is planning on being a team principal, and he has the role now. So it'll be interesting to see what Gaffo can do.
Yeah, I think, you know, when you start to see the names now come together, I think this is number 9. We see the battles that are going to take place, and, you know, I think everyone will be licking their lips with the likes of, say, Gaffo v Rando v Shamrock, you know, triple threat there that, you know, anyone would look forward to watching. So again, Gaffo, it'll be interesting to see what way he manages his drivers. He's obviously very outspoken in the chat. He certainly doesn't pull any punches. And, you know, will that work for him? Will that implode over the course of a season? It's going to be interesting to see. So, yeah, the biggest risk, I think, to Gaffo is himself. And let's just hope we don't have to fuck him out of the Discord before the end of the season.
Yeah, well, he's heard it now, so he's going to keep his mouth zipped. Now, on to the next one, and I believe this is the last one. I haven't actually been keeping count, but we'll find out. On to the next team principal. Irish Gary, of course. So, will we have a little bit of Irish Gary versus Farrell? Will we have Irish Gary versus everybody? Who knows? Of course, we know him from League of Ireland, once again, mainly from crashing in a Rouge and losing a championship. I can relate, Gary. I can relate, so it's okay for me to say it. But, you know, he's a good personality, and I think he'll give a lot to the
He's a
team
personality,
well.
I'll give him that. Yeah, Gary obviously has, you know, again, good credentials in LOI, minus obviously the incident you spoke about in La Rouge. And yeah, he'll know a lot of the drivers very well. He obviously has good experience himself. And yeah, he's representing Offaly on the map as well. If he wins this championship, I believe that will make him the most successful man to ever come out of Offaly in the Midlands. So that's really, really good and something to look forward to. And again, you know, I'm sure the likes of Gary, Ryan Dav, Farrell, they'll all be looking to get one over on each other as well. So it's going to be interesting to see not how just the 10 battles play out across the 10 TPs, but obviously then the intra wars that go on between that as well.
of course. Now, so that is all. So, as you can see on the screen, there's our 10 team principals for this coming season. So how this will shape out, it'll be very interesting to see. One team principal is going to win it all, and 3 of them are going to be sacked and replaced. So, to say it bluntly, but be very interesting. Not only for the fight for the win, but also that fight for 7th place. Between 8, 9, and 10th, they're all going to be fighting for, their job, basically, within VRS. So it'll be interesting. That fight for 7th place can be just as important as that fight for 1st, of course.
That's it, and every position will matter. And I know we're about to draw out the order now for this season, but the finishing order at the end of this season will shape next season and going forward. So, season 1, the only fair way to do it is to randomize it, and we're about to do that. But going forward, absolutely, the finishing order will dictate your chances for the following season. So it's really important if you want to be at the top to stay at the top, because, if you're picking next season 4th or 5th, and then say 14th or 15th in round 2 for your second seat, it's really going to affect your chances. Plus, as we know, the other perks that come with that, the likes of picking a track on the calendar and the slot the track goes into. I mean, all of those different decisions, the higher up the order you are, the more advantage you have basically in your pocket. So you don't want to be 8th, 9th or 10th, or you're getting the bullet. So it'll be interesting to see who that falls to over the season.
Now, for anybody taking that literally, you're not going to actually take an actual bullet, lads, so just relax now.
Depends on who it is.
But right, now into the fun part. Here we go. Who says VRS isn't fun? We have a lucky spinny wheel.
And if people are unsure of what parts of this stream I designed and what parts Josh did, the presentations, the fancy stuff, on me, and then we have Josh on a page right now.
And is this fun? You cannot tell me this isn't fun. So here we go. We have all of the team principals lined up nice and neatly, all the different colours in there as well for each team principal. So we'll go through it again. We will have our first team principal, and that first team principal that we get is going to get his first pick on a constructor, and then he's going to get the first driver pick and the last driver pick. So it's more fair in the first season, because this is the look of the draw, as you can see, the look of the wheel, and to make it a little bit more fair, we're going to have first out of the wheel get first pick and last pick, and then so on and so forth, second pick and 19th pick, until you get down to the very bottom, where you get 10th pick and 11th pick. So nobody is completely disadvantaged.
No, that's it. And also bear in mind the calendar is a big part of it. So you'll see the first 4 that come out here today, they will get to pick a track on the calendar, and they also get to pick the weather conditions for that race. Then from 5th to 8th, we'll still get to pick a track, but the weather will be set to dynamic. And then 9th and 10th, unfortunately, you get no benefit at all. So you can kind of see what we're trying to build here, which is that, the higher up you finish every season, the better advantage you have. And of course, they won't be picking that track on the calendar until they know what drivers they're getting, so they can kind of collaborate with the 2 drivers they have, and hopefully, pick a driver to suit their 2 on their team. So it'll be interesting to see how it all works out.
Well, indeed. So before we get underway, we're going to get underway very shortly. I see a few questions in the chat. They're not going to be picking their teams live. They'll be sent to them on Discord, and then we'll give a big announcement in the server, and we'll let everybody know with a nice graphic made by Konjoko himself on what now I've put him under pressure now, but for what team they have picked. So without further ado, let's get underway. And who is going to be the lucky man who gets the first driver pick and first constructor pick? So let's go here. We have it spinning, and who's it going to land on? It's looking like the new guy. It's going to be Francesco, who gets the first pick and the last pick, and also the first pick of the constructor. So congratulations, Francesco, you are the lucky winner. So we'll get in contact with you over Discord soon. But so that's the first one out of the way. So on to the second team principal, who will get the second pick and the 19th pick. So let's give her a spin once again. Pure entertainment here, lads, yes. And who's
like
that
a
going to be?
colourful spinny wheel.
And it's
Dan
Daniel Mullen. So, Daniel, you hear the claps there. They are excited. The crowd are excited for this. Daniel Mullen is going to get the second pick and the 19th pick. So let's actually talk about this for a little bit, Kev. We're Daniel Mullen. He's getting the second pick and the 19th pick. So you have an advantage getting the second pick, but then a slight disadvantage having the 19th pick. So what do you think about that? What do you think Daniel Mullen's going to do? Of course, you want speed having your second pick, but you also need consistency. You need consistent points coming in because your 19th pick, he may be a liability, I should say.
Yeah.
Or he could be the next Kajoko, coming up from tier 5, and now he's up there in tier 1, in League of Ireland. So, what do you think about this, Cav? How do you think he's going to attack this?
Well, we debated this obviously before we launched the concept, and I know in a lot of our opinions, it was the guys who land kind of towards the middle of this process that we think might have a great chance of doing well with next season in mind, because within the pool of drivers we have, and it'll depend obviously on, the final number that are available. But if you imagine you're picking maybe 8th, 9th, 10th, and then you're going to get another pick pretty much immediately after that, you have a really good chance to get two very solid drivers to hoover up the points. It's all well and good having the first or second pick, but if that driver for whatever reason doesn't have a great season, maybe misses a few races, whatever else, it's obviously going to be a huge issue when it comes to finishing high up the TP leaderboard. And that's ultimately what the team principals are going to be most concerned about, is how high up that leaderboard they finish, because as we know, it's cutthroat. The bottom 3 are gone, and next season will be fully dictated by where they all finish. So if you're in Daniel's position, you probably obviously have, second pick of everybody to look forward to, and that's great. But the real concern is, what are you going to get for your 19th pick? Because you need points from both drivers, and it's a long season. It's 12 races. Technically, it's 14 if you consider the sprint weeks. We're going to have double races, and it's going to be tricky. Yeah. So there's no real advantage to either, and that's the fairest way to do season 1. But if it was me, I'd much rather be somewhere towards the middle of this, maybe in around 6th or 7th, so that you're still getting a choice of track on the calendar, but at the same time, you're also getting maybe 2 picks that are a little bit closer together.
Yeah, of course. So let's get on to spin number 3. So this fella, of course, will get to pick the 3rd driver and the 18th driver left after all the other TPs I have selected. So let's go again with another spin. And let's see who we're going to land on here. It's very close between Ryan Dav and Gaffo here. Gaffo is going to snag it off him. It is Gaffo for pick number 3 and pick number 18.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting one once again. Of course, he's going to be in the same dilemma. He has picked number 3. He can have a very, very quick, consistent driver in number 3. But then again, it's the same as Daniel Mullen. He might have a little bit of a liability in having picked number 18.
Absolutely, and it is all going to come down to that pool of drivers that we have, because if there's only 10 really good drivers in the standard, then having one of those first 10 picks, obviously you're going to see all of those gone, and then on the way back around the second time, you're obviously going to be at a major disadvantage if you're in 18th, 19th or 20th. So it's really going to come down to the pool of drivers, and I suppose on that point, any of the TPs involved or anyone even in the stream, I see there's 30 people at the moment, and thanks very much for watching, like, subscribe, all that sort of bullshit, but get as many drivers into the league is what I'd say as you have in mind, because the more drivers, the better standard, the better the pool is that's there. Obviously, the better chance for the likes of, say, Gaffo, when it comes around to his 18th pick, the better chance from getting someone that can still compete and still hone in the points. So in a lot of ways, the responsibility now is falling back on the 10 TPs to go and almost try fill those positions with the drivers that they might have an eye on themselves, and maybe bring in a dark horse like a Francesco that none of us really know too well, and keep the TTs modest and hopefully snatch up a really good driver on the second run around. So it's all going to be interesting to see how those storylines play out.
It will indeed. So let's get on to our 4th pick. So it is close again between Lucky Nutshot and Rando will get pick number 4. So getting closer to the middle ground where you want to be, really, to have the safest picks. We have Rando pick number 4 and pick number, which is 17? Yeah, 17. Can you tell I did
A
ordinary?
whiz with the numbers as always.
Yeah, Verando, pick number 4 and pick number 17. You're getting there. You're getting there with your second pick. You have a good first pick, of course, but you have to have 2 drivers to win a constructors. You can't have one. So Rando is in a good spot at the moment. He really is in a good spot. He still has a driver who can possibly compete for the top spot. But more importantly, he wants that constructors and he wants that team principal championship. So he wants someone who won't bring in a load of penalty points to affect his team principal championship position, because we know that will affect a lot of drivers. Maybe some of even the faster drivers who Daniel Mullen or someone further up will pick. Rando can maybe have that more good pace, but good consistency as well.
Yeah, that's it. And as you said yourself, it's all about getting those points in. It's going to be a weird situation where you could actually end up with the driver who, finishes first, maybe second in the championship. But if your second driver completely lets you down and accumulates a load of penalty points, you're going to end up down that TP leaderboard. And you could have a bizarre situation where you end up, with the winning driver, but your second driver is so bad that you end up in maybe 8th, 9th, or 10th in the championship. So all those storylines will play out, but the lads are going to have to put a lot of thought and care into who they take. It's not just going to be about taking pure pace. And that's what'll be interesting to see when we come to the driver draft in a couple of weeks, hopefully.
Indeed. So let's get on to pick number 5. Now we're getting into the good grounds here. And pick number 5 and pick number 16. So let's see who it's going to be. And it's going to be Lucky Nutshot. So the man with the best application is going to get pick number 5 and pick number 16. What do you think about that, Kev?
Yeah, I think we're getting into the stage now where I feel like I'd be much more comfortable. You're going to get 2, picks that come somewhat close together. And again, as I said, it's completely reliant on the pool of drivers available. But for the likes of Lucky, who would know a lot of the LOI lads quite well, he should have no issue there in that position. Hopefully find himself 2 very consistent drivers. And as I said, hopefully protecting and maybe even improving the seat for next season.
Indeed. So let's move on to pick number 6 and pick number 15. I think I'm correct. Yes.
You're doing well with this.
I am doing very well, thank you, Cav. Now, here we go. Pick number 6 is going to be... it's close between Gary and Farrell. Oh, it's very close between the two, and it is Farrell who will have pick number 6. So once again, closer and closer to that great middle ground. So pick number 6 and pick number 15, you're almost getting ideal there. Farrell, we know he has a good eye for a good driver, and he'll know who to pick with consistency and pace combined. So you need obviously the 2. But yeah, what do you think yourself, Kev, with pick number 6 and 15?
I think what's interesting with what we've left now is that, not right across the board, but with the 5 lads we've left, including Farrell, it's the more experienced, quicker drivers that are still in the pool, and they'll obviously now be looking to choose their approach and see how they can get on in the role. So yeah, for the likes of Farrell, you still have Gary, Ryan Dav, Ryan Curran, and Shamrock in there. Like, they're obviously going to be in a good position to get consistency, but will they have enough in pace to get points on the board? That's what they're going to have to try to find the sweet spot with.
Exactly. Right, let's move on now to pick number 7 and pick number 14. Here we go. And it's looking to be Shamrock. And it is Shamrock. Shamrock will get 7 and 14. So here we are in this sweet spot now. He has picked number 7. Of course, there's 6 other TPs to get to pick. Let's say faster drivers ahead of Shamrock. But then he also has pick number 14, who's 7 drivers. He also has to get to pick above 7 drivers. So, or above 7 TPs, I should say. So Shamrock has a good, great middle ground here, as we keep on talking about. And we're going to keep on talking about it. But yeah, this is a good spot for Shamrock. What do you think, Kev?
Yeah, I think so. It's just I see Francesco there after missing the last 10 minutes has no clue that he has first pick out of the gate. Someone can explain it to him in due course. But for Shamrock, yeah, look, this is the sweet spot now, really, we're getting into. where you'll find hopefully some consistency. But obviously, that's providing there is still, drivers with pace that are left at this point as well. So, as I said, it's all going to be down to the pool of drivers available. And I just wonder, will there be a little bit now of recruitment going on, people trying to encourage their mates to come into the league, maybe come in under a different name, all that sort of shenanigans. But the definitely the drivers you sign are obviously going to be your primary reason to win or lose. So the next decision for all these sets of TPs now is the most important, really.
Exactly, yeah. And it's up to the TPs really. If they're going to go with the list they're given, that's great. But if you have, let's say, pick number 7 here, like Shamrock, what he'll want to be looking at is looking outside of the league, looking to someone he knows that's fast and nobody else knows is fast. That's where you're going to get the good drivers. That's where you're going to get your results. You don't want the work handed to you. You want to look possibly outside the league, or maybe within the league if you have an eye on someone. But if you want to get that guaranteed good pick with number 7, your first driver, you want it to be someone that nobody knows. So you want to try and get in a few people that you know and have them all down on the list. So no one else is going to pick them. So you have a great chance at the Constructors' Championship and of course the Team Principal Championship as well.
Exactly. I see Bluefoot there, Callum Evers, just putting in basically how the league works. So we have a man on the ground almost doing the hard work for us. I'm still trying to get my head around what fucking rules we wrote. So yeah, fair play to him. He seems to have it all down. So lads, if you have any questions, please go to Callum.
Right, let's get on to pick number 8 and pick number 13. No, 14? 13.
You're right, first time.
13.
Doing so well.
I was. Okay, right, here we go. Pick number 8 and pick number 13. And it is going to be, it's looking like it's going to be Ryan Dav. It is going to be Ryan Dav. Pick number 8 and 13. So again, we're getting interesting here. This is where you need to get outside the league. You need to have a look for drivers you know that are quick. We've said it a million times. And we're going to say it another million times because we're giving you tips here, lads, right? You have to, you can look inside. By the time everyone takes their picks, you're going to realise that all the drivers you had your eyes on are not going to be there anymore. So looking outside is the best thing you can do. Now, as long as they come into the league, they sign up, we give them a licence, then they're good to go. No one else will know who they are. That's where you're going to thrive.
Well, that's it. We'll be obviously closing off the driver applications in the coming days. So I suppose it's a final reminder, if people do know any drivers that potentially might be interested in driving for them or driving in the league, please do obviously get them in while we still have time to get a few drivers on the books. And at the point then that we obviously close off applications for the driver side, we'll be reaching out to the 10 team principals to get their draft picks. So they'll be submitting to us their preference order basically. And then we'll do a big reveal of who's gotten who in probably the coming week or two. So yeah, it's all to play out, but obviously the key piece for now is if you have someone in mind that you might, want to get in as a dark horse for your team, get them in before it's too late. I see Glenn Mack's name been put in there by Gaffo, an LOI legend, a legend of league racing, and yeah, that's the sort of person I suppose we expect we may see a late dash for an application happen in the next few days.
Right, let's get into pick number 9 and pick number 12. So here we go, between Ryan Curran and Irish Gary. So this is gonna actually reveal both of them. So this is whoever.
And if you can't work that out, then you probably shouldn't be a team principal.
So whoever gets picked is going to be pick number 9 and 12, and whoever doesn't gets pick 10 and 11. So let's give her a spin here, or him, whatever you want to identify it as, and it is going to be Ryan Curran. So Ryan Curran is going to get pick number 9 and 12. What do you think about that, Kev? I think it's the same as 7 to 8 to 9 to 10. You want to look outside the league, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose we've gotten into the drivers now who aren't going to get a calendar pick, and that's, for the TP this is a big loss because, you may have a driver who is very much specialised in a handful of tracks and you might want to see one of those on the calendar, but you won't have that within your control now. So for the likes of Ryan, they're going to be in the hands of the gods when it comes to what tracks we actually cover. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much of an advantage that turns out to be. If you think along the lines of, say, someone like Spider-Man, who's a one-track merchant around Belgium, if you were Spider-Man's TP, you'd want to make sure Belgium is somewhere on that calendar. Yeah. But with it in the hands now of the TPs, for Ryan and Gary, that's going to be a big advantage missed out on. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much that costs them, if anything, over the course of the season.
Indeed. And we have the last one here. So let's give it a spin and see what it's going to land on.
No one Irish Gary's. Look now, this will crash going up Eau Rouge and you won't get picked. But let's see. No, it is actually Gary.
And it is Irish Gary gets 10th and 11th pick. What a surprise. So, 10th and 11th pick. Having a think about it, it's so hard to think about what's the ideal one. So, of course, 1 and 20, you have first pick, but you also have last pick. And then 10 and 11, you have 10th, you have 11th, 2 in the very middle, slap bang in the middle. So obviously you need 2 drivers to win a constructors, but will they be good enough? Time will only tell. But it's very interesting to see now. Will Gary be able to pull through? Will he be able to look outside the league, look for someone that people don't know, possibly a dark horse again? We're gonna give Kajoko his name, give him a little ego boost. But yeah, it'll be very interesting to see, won't it?
Yeah, and Gary's the only one that's going to have to clarify to his 2 drivers which is his number 1 and which is his number 2 driver, because for every other pick, it's going to be obviously obvious. Whoever picks, as you said, 4th and 20th, obviously their 4th pick is their number 1, their 20th pick's the number 2. In Gary's case, he gets the 2 of them together. So yeah, he'll have a little bit of a team dynamic to manage there. And I suppose for him, he has the hardest job really of the 10 lads that are there. Obviously, you can see it as an advantage in some ways, but that's going to be the interesting side of it, is not only seeing how the lads go about their picks in terms of pace v consistency, but also in terms of what progress and development you can see in the drivers over this course of the season. A very hands-on team principal, someone maybe with some experience in setups or strategy, some good calls from looking at the data on a Sunday night, whatever it might be, can make a world of difference to a couple of results. And a couple of results could be the difference between, finishing 7th in the TP Championship and finishing 5th, 4th, or higher. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting, and that whole survival piece is going to be huge, because for some team principals, depending on what drivers they get, they're going to feel like they have a great chance of maybe winning the thing outright. For others, it's going to look at obviously more of a case of, well, how do I survive, or how do I maximize this season to give myself a better chance next season? And those dynamics are, going to be really interesting to see play out over the course of the season.
Will indeed. And just having a little look here at the chat. Gary. So Gary is the number 1 in his team, and the drivers are 2 and 3. So that's an interesting dynamic that we're going to see in that team. So who'll want to drive for Gary? Who knows? I know I wouldn't. Anyway, we have our order. As you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, we have Francesco, then Daniel, then Gaffo, Rando, Lucky Nutshot, Farrell, Shamrock, Ryan Dav, Ryan Curran, and finally, last but not least, it's Irish Gary.
Maybe least, but yeah, no, Gary has the hardest job of the lot. But as I said, there's positives to it as well, and it really is in a lot of ways going to be about how much you can help your drivers over the course of the season to pick up those little bit of extra points or strategy calls here and there, and setups, etc. We all know how important these things are over the course of a 12 race season, so it'll be interesting to see who can do the most with whatever drivers they have. There's obviously a couple of bits we should cover before we finish up. One being, and I hate to have to plug it, but obviously we are new lads. The more people like, subscribe and all that to the content, the better. I know there's loads of people after joining the Discord, and that's great, and the likes of this video I can see there as well, people are giving it the thumbs up, so appreciate that. We should acknowledge as well just the lads who applied for team principal but didn't get picked. We did go through every application, and it's unfortunate just while we're trying to tease out this concept that we're only going with 1 tier and we're only going with 10 team principals. So we appreciate all the lads that submitted applications, and the idea for this is obviously for it to grow in time. So it'll be great to think that anyone that applied for TP will get a role either somewhere during this season if someone for whatever reason may have to step aside, or better still next season as we grow into 2 tiers. And finally, I think most importantly, is the driver application window is still open for the next couple of days. So if anyone knows anyone that is interested in joining the league as a driver, now is the time. I suppose we know who the 10 TPs are. We're going to get our driver draft done very soon in the next few days. And just to encourage them to get that application in, we've reduced it to 3 time trials to try and make it a bit easier, but we still need people to go through the process if possible.
Indeed. So that's it from us. Thank you very much for tuning in and watching, and hopefully understanding. And yeah, hopefully you enjoyed our entertaining spinny wheel as much as I did. I was enjoying every second of that. And I know Cav was as
You're
well.
gonna spin this again after the stream ends, aren't you?
You read my mind. Anyway, thank you again for watching, and we will